Kemet civilization fell in 332 BC with the advent of Alexander of Macedonia conquering Kemet and turning Kemet into
Right.
Egypt. Egypt is a
Greek word.
Pyramid is
Egypt
Greek.
is a Greek
This
word.
is Greek. So most of the names of African places and things and people have been changed by non-African people. So if you don't know the original names, you'll never be able to understand the history, the culture, the science, the philosophy, and the concepts as they were originally created. Let me give you one
Okay.
example of that. Pyramid is a Greek word which means little flat cake, like a pancake. The original word for that structure is mir, M-I-R.
Right.
And the word mir means the place of ascension. So mir, there are no bodies buried in any pyramids of mir in the entire Nile Valley. None, zero. So anytime anybody tells you that the pyramids were tombs, that is a lie, whether it's an intentional lie or unintentional lie based on ignorance. Mir were always built over tombs. The tombs were underground. So the word mir means the place of ascension. The place of ascension. And the purpose of a mir was to facilitate the ascension of the soul buried underneath it into heaven, where that soul would be reborn. And they were very specific about where in heaven a soul would go to be reborn. So the first text which documented this journey of the soul into the afterlife was carved in the burial chamber of a tomb known as the Pyramid of Unas, right? So it's in his burial chamber where you find the oldest written religious documents in the world were inscribed on the walls of this particular tomb. That talks about the soul, that talks about the process for the salvation of the soul, that talks about the judgment of the soul, and the place where souls go to be reborn. So the framework for Western religions can be found in the Nile Valley. So it's important to reclaim the names. It's important to understand chronology and history. So in that context, Alexander of Macedonia conquered Kemet in 332 BC, and the word Egypt derived from the name Hekaptah, which is the temple of the spirit of Ptah in the city of Mennefer, which was later renamed Memphis by the Greeks. And so that word Hekaptah became Aigyptos, which was Latinized and became Egypt. That's how that word devolved, not evolved, it devolved because it lost its essence through the evolution of the word. And so once Alexander conquered Kemet, then he became so enamored by the 3,000 years of historical knowledge that he had inherited by virtue of conquest. And so he no longer referred to himself as Alexander, son of Philip of Macedonia. He called himself Alexander, son of Ammon, son of Amen, the unseen presence of God Almighty, which is a upper Nile Valley concept, right? And so the Greek rulers then descended from Alexander's line, and Cleopatra is the last of these Greek rulers. So Cleopatra, for all intents and purposes, Cleopatra was not African. She was not Kemetic in the literal sense of the word. And so my thing is, don't get caught up in Cleopatra. There are other personalities of more historical and cultural significance who we should be focusing our attention on. So I would bypass Cleopatra discussion and focus on Queen Tiye, who was one of the baddest queens in human history. She was one of the most powerful rulers on earth. She was the wife of Imhotep III, and their statue in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo is the largest statue in that building. And anyone who looks upon that statue could see the nationality or the race, if you will, of who these two African people were. And it's very clear that we understand the chronology. Queen Tiye was the wife of Amenhotep III. The son was Amenhotep IV, who changed his name to Akhenaten. And Akhenaten's son was the person that we call King Tut. So if you understand the history, understand the chronology, you can focus your attention on subject matters that are more worthy of discussion than Cleopatra. Not to dismiss her summarily, but Cleopatra is about as significant as Meghan Markle. I'm just saying.
Right.
Context is everything. Context is everything. So look at, and there, thank you for that image of Queen Tiye. Now, that's a very small image of Queen T. And what I would also suggest those of your listeners who live in New York, go to the Metropolitan Museum, the Met Museum, and you'll see an image of Queen T in the Met Museum. But that image of Queen T has half of her face destroyed. And there was an article that was written in the 1970s that was an attack against African-centered scholars. And Asa Hilliard brought this knowledge to our attention. The people from the New York Times had interviewed him as part of this same debate that folk are having right now about Cleopatra and African history. And Asa Hilliard showed this image of Queen T. And this image of Queen T, I love it so much because it reminds me so much of my dear friend, Dr. Francis Chris Wilson, with the afro, the stern look, and a woman who was clearly in control of herself and her destiny. So Asa referenced that face of Queen T in the Metropolitan Museum with half the face knocked off. So they had an opportunity, the New York Times had an opportunity to tell the truth, but they chose not to.
Right.
And so these are the games that we're playing with, and we have to, be very careful about who we get our information from. We should read everything, but read everything with a critical eye so that you can discern when someone is being deceptive. You can discern when you're being immersed into aspects of the truth so that you can ground yourself on the truth and not be led astray by arguments or false narratives that are designed to neutralize your strength, your power, and to waste time.
Yes.
We really don't have any time to waste.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of time, I know you have to run, so I want you to let people know about, you told me Egypt on the Potomac Tour is going to start back up. Give people the website, and then family watching. As soon as we finish with Tony, I'll let you know about my online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays, because we have a class today at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go ahead, Tony.
So through our company, IKG, we have been presenting this information for over 40 years. We've done numerous publications. We have numerous activities. One of our most significant activities is our Egypt on the Potomac field trip, which is something that I created in 1986. So Egypt on the Potomac is designed to show people the Egyptian presence, the Kemetic presence in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And I've done research. We've been doing this for well over 30 years, and no one has ever challenged me based on the information that we put forward to show that America's founding fathers chose examples from the Nile Valley, from Kush and Kemet, in order to establish the foundation for what has become the capital of the wealthiest, most powerful nation in human history. So that activity has been curtailed for the past 3 years because of COVID. But beginning on May the 6th, we will have our regular 3-hour bus field trip of Washington, D.C., where we will take you through various locations throughout the city, and explain the architectural, the symbolic, and the mythological elements of Nile Valley civilization, which have literally been hidden in plain sight. We connect the dots, and we empower people with the ability to see their history and use that history to transform their consciousness. So anyone can go to our website, ikg-info.com. We also have another project that we're going to be unveiling at the Thurgood Marshall Center, where we're based in D.C. It's the John Henry Clark Enhanced History Project. This project, we have 400 square feet of wall space where we're going to be using information inspired by the work of John Henry Clark to tell the story of people who've been written out of the respectable commentary of human history. And this project is my response to certain historical shortcomings in the National Museum of African American History and Culture, which is a phenomenal structure. The only issue that I have with it is that it begins our history in the basement, and it begins our history with slavery.
Right.
It doesn't talk about who we were prior to our enslavement.
Exactly.
So the cornerstone of the John Henry Clark Enhanced History Project is a 25-foot long mural, which illustrates 8,000 years of African excellence and success, an undeniable 8,000 years of African excellence and success, which was undermined by the Ma'afa, the European and Arab enslavement of African people. But we have come through the Ma'afa. We have survived. Yes. And through the work that you're doing, through the work that others are doing, we are doing our best to bring forbidden knowledge into the community that needs the knowledge the most, so that they can transform their consciousness and create a world that is worthy of their children and their children's children's inheriting, based on accessing ancestral knowledge and recreating the genius that we were born with. So that's the process, man. And let me just, in closing, let me just share that my good colleague, Charles French, has a new book coming out next month. It's 10,000 years of Nile Valley history.
Okay.
10,000 of Nile Valley history. So I'm really pleased to see that there's more scholars, more sisters and brothers who are doing the work and documenting a history that has been suppressed for so long. And all we have to do is read and study and create spaces within our home. Every home should have a library.
Correct.
Right? The parents in those homes should spend time reading with your children and having intelligent discussions about how to articulate that history. Everybody pays taxes, and our tax dollars are being used in schools to miseducate many children, black, brown, white, children in the classroom.
Right.
So we have an obligation as taxpayers to see to it that certain information is accessible in the classroom. And if it's not going to be taught in the classroom, we need to demand of our churches, our fraternities, our sororities, our barbershops and beauty shops to turn those spaces into spaces where we can teach our children and their parents and elders in the community who they are.
Correct.
So we can transform our consciousness.
All right. Now, if you like the type of information that was shared here today, I mentioned this earlier, visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, and register for the online history classes that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. Okay. Saturdays, and normally I would teach one today, but I said, okay, we're going to interview Dr. Chike Akua. So next Sunday we'll be in class, but Saturdays, I teach a 12-week online course that I created, called Ancient Kemet, one of the original names for Egypt, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. We had a fantastic session yesterday. We dealt with the Dogon and how the Dogon originate in the Nile Valley region of Africa, the Dogon of Mali. We talked about Benjamin Banneker, and it's believed that Benjamin Banneker's grandfather, Banneker, was West African and possibly Dogon. We talked about astronomy, all of this, and the connection between the Dogon and ancient Kemet. The supreme being amongst the Dogon, whose name is Amma, comes from Amen. And we know Amen, Amen-Ra Ptah, the supreme being in ancient Kemet. So we do this class Saturdays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's on sale, $80. It's a 12-week online course. This time around, we're going to do 13 or 14 sessions. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded, so you can go back and watch it anytime. Okay. So as soon as you register for this 12-week online course, you can watch the class that we did yesterday and the previous weeks. And even after the 12-week online course is over with, you still have access to the full class. This content, I would say, is PG-13, is not overly graphic or anything like that. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips. We take you throughout history. We show some of the interviews I've done with some of our scholars, like Professor Kaba Kamene, Professor James Small, Tony Browder, Dr. David Imhotep, and others. Sundays, I teach Black resistance movements from the Haitian Revolution, U.S. Civil War, Civil Rights Movement, and Black Power Movement, 1800 to 1968. We go through history chronologically and look at this history. We look at what leads up to the Civil War taking place. We look at the Reconstruction era, Jim Crow era, World War I, World War II, Civil Rights Movement, and Black Power Movement, to understand how we got to where we are today, to understand where we need to go from here. And I created both of these two curriculums. We look at 80 to 100 articles in each class. There are book references as well. The first class is about 7 to 8 books that we reference. You don't have to buy any of the books. We show you excerpts of the book right on the screen. Okay. And I'm a historian. I've been studying history 31 years. And these two courses that I teach is the culmination of a lot of research and interviews I've done on the African History Network show. And I've been hosting the African History Network show. I created the show. I've been hosting for 13 years as well. Okay. So there's a PowerPoint presentation with over 200 slides in the first class that we use. I put together the PowerPoint presentation, put together the curriculum also for both of these classes. And we deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. We look at work from Dr. David Imhotep, but we also talk about the 1619 project. Now, today is August 20th, 2019, the 403rd or 404th anniversary, I should say, of August 20th, 1619. Today is the 404th anniversary of that.
Is your child struggling with reading, writing, learning loss, and a culturally irrelevant curriculum? Do you want your child to be outstanding at reading and writing and also take pride in their culture? Then you want Reading Revolution Online. Reading Revolution Online is a web-based reading support program. We serve scholars in grades K through 8, and through our innovative approach, we help them build reading confidence and cultural identity development, equipping them for success in school and life. They learn about Black heroes and sheroes through captioned videos, reading selections, and other activities. Reading Revolution Online is an experience for the whole family. Do it for the culture. Go to readingrevolution.org and get your membership today.